Hello, I am Riley Smith with MakeGood Creative Network. I am, in addition to being the founder of MakeGood, also a full-time fiction writer. As a full-time fiction writer, I wanted to share with you today some of the books that have really helped improve my writing, get it to the point where people would pay me for it. So I'm going to share 3 books that have really helped me and definitely improved my writing. And then I have 3 books that are actually from our members network. So our Make Good Creative Network, it's more than just me sitting in my house reading books. There's other people sitting in their house reading books. So I'm gonna share some of the picks from people in our network. And then at the very end, I'm even going to share one expert level book that is not for beginners. So let's go ahead and jump in. This first one I actually have a physical copy of. I talk about this book a lot. It made a huge difference for me. I think that if I hadn't come across this book and done the things that she recommends in this book, I probably wouldn't be able to be a writer full-time today. I wouldn't be able to write enough and at a high enough level in order to make a living. So I totally recommend Writing Down the Bones, Freeing the Writer Within, Free Them by Natalie Goldberg. What I like about this book is that it combines this hippy-dippy Zen writing philosophy, which is awesome, with actual exercises. So thanks to the philosophies and exercises in this book, I'm able now to write 20 to 50K words a week and keep up that pace and put out books that people seem to enjoy for the most part. I actually talk about this book a lot. I talked about it in our video on books that will show you how to be funny and help you with comedy writing. I recommend this book there because it's all about freeing your mind and letting what's natural come out of you and onto the page so that your writing feels less forced and stilted and you can kind of avoid awkward structures and it's just coming from the heart, from a real place. So Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg. I don't have a physical copy of this next book because I read it in high school, but it really set off my lifelong love affair with words. So this book is How to Read Literature Like a Professor by Thomas C. Foster. He doesn't talk about how to write, but he talks about how readers read and how we interpret symbolism. Now, this book is mostly from a Western point of view. It's not really going to tell you the symbolism of anywhere else in the world. It's focusing on Western literature and the Western literary tradition. But if you are writing in that tradition, then this book will really help you understand common symbolism and what you're implying with certain things. For instance, the symbolism behind characters sitting down to eat dinner. You might think that your characters are just stopping at a diner, but food is really important to us. It's a ritual for humans. It's a time of vulnerability because you can't be in defensive mode while you're also got a burger shoved in your mouth. So food and eating are hugely important. And in the book, he outlines what are some of the symbolic resonances of these different things. And it's called How to Read Literature Like a Professor because this is how academics interpret books, but it's not just about academics, it's also about what your readers will see. It was also the first place where I was exposed to the idea of the meta story, or the one big story, that all books, all stories are all in conversation with each other, because when your reader reads a book, they're also thinking about everything they've ever read before, and they're comparing you to all these other books that they've heard about and that they want to read. So a book never just exists on its own in a vacuum. It's always in some type of context that the reader is reading it. So this book, very simple prose, takes you through what these different symbols mean and how this meta story works, how your book might fit into all of the stories in the world and this great tapestry of the story that is people and our whole existence and history. So it's a pretty big deal. And it helped me a lot. The last book that definitely taught me a big part of how to write is The 7 Basic Plots by Christopher Booker. I listened to this on audiobook, which is great because I think it's narrated by the author and he's got this like kind of dryly sarcastic way of talking throughout the book. So it's really entertaining to listen to him, but I like the audiobook a lot and I'm sure it would also be fine to just sit down and read it. but it is available in audiobook if you prefer that option. Now, the 7 basic plots is the theory that every single story in the world, so we talked about the meta story, this is the theory that every single story in the world is not only related, but it actually all boils down to 7 plots total. That every story that's good, that's worth telling or worth reading, boils down into one of these 7 plots. One of them being, defeating the monster, another one being rags to riches. So Cinderella, Aladdin, a lot of these other rags to riches tales. And so in the book, he outlines what these plots are, why they're satisfying to us, and also gives you examples and walks you through several examples of these plots. Now, whether or not his theory is actually correct in that the only good stories follow these 7 plots, that's hugely debatable. There's a lot of surrealist narrative that would probably say you don't really need to fit into one of those. But regardless, if you're writing fiction and you're struggling with plot or you don't know how to end your story in a satisfying way, read this book because it tells you how plots work and why different plots are satisfying. So regardless of whether every story in the world that is worth reading fits into one of these plots, I mean, we can let the academics argue about that. They can go do their thing with that whole argument. We as writers can sit down and use these tools that have been proven to work. So if you're struggling to find an ending, you can listen to this book and you'll probably realize that the story you have so far fits into one of these patterns. That happened with me. I was trying to work out how I was going to end this book that I was writing a couple years ago, and I didn't really know what would be satisfying. And then I listened to this book and it was like, bing, and I got the perfect ending. I realized that I was writing a defeating the monster story, and I was able to map out the rest of my plot and come up with a satisfying, engaging ending for my readers. So that's the 7 basic plots by Christopher Booker. It'll definitely help you with plotting out your stories. Next, we have our network picks. These recommendations come from writers in our network. The first one I'm going to share with you is, I'm cheating a little bit. It's actually not a book. This one is called, I feel so sneaky. This one is called PhilosophyTube. It's a YouTube channel run by a lovely lady, and she has these fantastic video essays on really everything you could think of. Her goal is to make philosophy really accessible to all of us, even without a philosophy major. I find that a lot of the videos are really helpful for creativity. She even has a whole series, a 3-part series on how creativity works. This was recommended by one of our network members because you can basically get a primer on any highfalutin topic you want in a clever, fun, well-edited way. If you don't feel like sitting down and reading like a whole friggin' philosophical treatise on whatever it is, you can sit and watch the video and be entertained while also learning a ton. So PhilosophyTube is definitely a great place to check out. That will help you become a better writer, not only by learning about the topics that she's talking about, but seeing how she puts together her videos. They're super entertaining, super clear, and you can learn a lot about how to write a clear, satisfying message from her vids as well. Our next pick from a network member is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I have not read this one, but it is a spiritual approach to creativity. So if you're looking for more of an overarching theory of how do I spur on my creativity, how do I make this more of a part of my life, how do I connect this with the other parts of myself and the other things that I believe, this could be a great place for you to start. The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Another recommendation that we had from a network member, Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. I have had this recommended to me like a lot. I've had this recommended to me so many times and I haven't read it yet. I'm going to. It's definitely on my TBR because the subtitle is 10 Things Nobody Told You About Creativity, and there's a lot of really important messages in this book. It's very short, but it's paradigm shifting. So one of the things that I really like about it, and this is something that I talk about a lot on this channel and in my other things that I do, you don't have to create something totally quote unquote original. Just because an idea has been done before doesn't mean you shouldn't try to do it yourself, because no one's going to be able to make it the way you do. So there's kind of a line you have to draw where you can be inspired by something or even just steal parts of things from other people's creations and turn them into something awesome. It can be hard when you're starting out to just let yourself go and give yourself that opportunity, you know, and realize that everything you do is inspired by something. So when you're sitting down to write a song and you're like, oh man, this sounds like these other songs that I know, don't stop writing your song. It's not exactly like those other songs that you know. Of course you're inspired by those other songs. Same thing with poetry, with fiction writing. You are going to be inspired and influenced by every piece of art that you've ever experienced before. So that's one of the things that Steal Like an Artist talks about. And there's a lot of other really good lessons in there. Like I said, it's on my TBR and I'm gonna read it soon. But it comes heavily recommended by many of our network members. Now for the bonus round. This is our expert level book. It was recommended by one of our network members, David Pischke of Tolson Books. He is a teacher and professor and a publisher and a writer himself. And he said this book really changed the way that he thought about fiction and made him realize all the magical things that it can do. So if you want to unravel the magic, if you don't consider yourself a beginner, but you want to learn more about how fiction works, this book is for you. It's called, and it's easy to remember, How Fiction Works by James Wood. What a simple name. How Fiction Works by James Wood takes you into the magic of what happens when we read. What goes on between a reader and a story. And by understanding what goes on between a reader and a story, you can unravel how to, as a writer, make that magical process do what you want. Of course, there's always going to be some, difference between what you think and what the reader thinks, and that's beautiful. Everybody brings something new when they sit down with a story, but by understanding how readers read, you can improve how you write for readers. So that's it. Those are the 7 suggestions I have for you. I guarantee if you sit down and read even half of this list, so 3.5 books, even just 3 of these books, you will skyrocket your writing ability. I know a lot of people say that in order to become a better writer, you just have to write, but here's the thing. If you're not learning from experts, in some capacity, either through books or watching them on YouTube or taking classes in some capacity. If you're not learning from experts about your craft, you might be just solidifying bad habits. Or you might run out of inspiration because you have no fuel. It's very hard to just generate energy from nothing. So reading any one of these books will inspire you, teach you better writing habits, and help you become the writer you've always wanted to be. If you feel like something is still holding you back and you would like even more help on your creative journey, go ahead and download our 21 Creativity Killers Guide and how to beat them. This will tell you not only which thing about your life, your environment is smashing your creativity and keeping you from fulfilling your creative dreams. It'll also tell you very clearly in 3 simple steps how to beat it. How do you start fighting back against whatever is killing your creativity? So please go ahead and check it out. I'll also link a video. We have a review of the Creativity Killer Pack that you can watch as well if you want to learn more about it before you download it. But it's totally free and super helpful. I refer to it all the time. Anytime that I feel blocked or down or not motivated, I refer to it as well. And it's really helped me just stay on track. So if you need more help with your creativity, download the guide. And I hope you enjoy reading these books. If you've read any of these books before, go ahead and drop your review, what you think of it in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinion on it. And most importantly, let's go read stuff.